Dear Mrs. Newkirk, as I'm sure was your intent, I have been made aware of your will. You fail to say, however, what you would do with your anus. I might suggest that you have it stretched and used as the threshold for your front door at PETA. That would provide visitors and clients an accurate portrayal of what they might find inside. Dear Ingrid, with all of the innocent children being exploited, aborted, and abused, with all of the people starving in this world, why don't you pull your head out of your ass and fight for a real cause rather than if a cat gets caught in a fan belt? Dear Ingrid, ha ha, you dick-eating carpet munchers, go fuck yourself. You assholes really are demented. All of you belong in a cage with all of your four-legged buddies. You are truly fucking tasteless. I wish you all meeting up with a Jeffrey Dahmer so he can rid the world of scumbags like you.
Understand, Ms. Newkirk. I mean, I think your intentions are good, but I don't know if you're persuading anybody. You see, you're just teeing people off. You're making people think that you guys are all a bunch of nuts.
They do all sorts of things to say, look at me, look at my agenda, without recognizing how many people they offend.
The PETA organization is a very strange, disturbed group of people.
If they had their way, they would put medical progress at a standstill.
Ingrid, you've been quoted as saying that a rat is a pig, is a dog, is a boy.
In feelings, in the things that are important. They feel fear, they feel loneliness, they struggle to live.
You're asserting there's no difference between a human being and a farm animal. And I'm sorry, you lost me and you lost millions of Americans at that point.
In the wild, they die slowly, in pain, as much as any turkey in a turkey farm.
They're like concentration camps for animals.
How far out to lunch are you people?
These people, of course, place animals above human beings. I think it's a very dangerous movement. They're involved in terrorism. If they only wanted to wear their plastic shoes, eat their bean sprouts, I wouldn't have a problem with them. But they want to make use of the government to impose these crackpot ideas on the rest of us. I think it's a very dangerous movement.
Our goal is total animal liberation and the day when everyone believes that animals are not ours to eat, not ours to wear, not ours to experiment, and not ours for entertainment or any other exploitive purpose.
I would like to be kind, but it makes for a very difficult life if you follow everything they say.
Not a world I'd like to live in.
For my whole adult life, I felt absolutely driven to try to convince people to consider animals, no matter what they're doing, whether they're buying something to eat or wear, or they've got a dog in their house. They need to think of what that animal is going through, to put that animal in the equation. It matters to me. I don't know why. I didn't choose it. It might be just purely that I can imagine myself going through exactly what they're going through, and I want to stop it. There has been an undeclared war on animals since the beginning of time because they're vulnerable, because you can pick on them, because they can't arm themselves, because they don't know that you're coming. You know, they can't cry surrender. They haven't attacked us. They haven't done anything. And yet we continue to attack them. We continue to round them up, imprison them, strip them of everything, and slaughter them. For what?
The reason we started PETA was to fight against what we believe is the enslavement of animals. I really believe that animals have been enslaved by humans and are treated just like slaves.
Alex Pacheco and I were sort of like Jack Sprat and his wife. I knew about animal experimentation because I had inspected laboratories, and I knew about cruelty to animals cases. He knew about the Japanese going out and killing whales. He knew about fox hunts, those sorts of things. And he was a vegan. I wasn't, and he teased me about that. We pooled our knowledge and formed PETA in my little 2-room apartment. And we used to wrap our feet in blankets to keep warm while we were typing things in winter, make our homemade placards, go out into the street. And we had our very first demonstration at a Washington, D.C. live chicken slaughterhouse. People could not believe anyone was defending chickens. The first investigation we did was in Silver Spring. Alex went undercover into the Institute for Behavioral Research.
This is one of the Silver Spring monkeys, a photograph I took when I was working inside the laboratory. And this just shows them every 4 months they were put in this immobilizing device where they're totally immobilized. And then it was my job to inflict pain on them.
Earlier this month, police removed monkeys from the Institute of Behavioral Studies where they were being used in experiments on the central nervous system. Police testified that the animals were living in filth and had untreated wounds. The documenting photographs were taken by members of an animal welfare group named PETA.
Every single researcher in the world, within a week, knew about PETA. It really shook up the entire biomedical industry. It got onto the front pages, it got into Congress, it went all the way to the Supreme Court twice. It really saturated the country like no other cruelty case has ever done.
Animal rights groups have been around since the 19th century, but PETA came in as a group of shock troops and said, okay, hey, we need a new level of intensity.
Once we did the laboratory investigation, it just caught on like wildfire.
A group of demonstrators has taken up the cause of animal welfare in an NIH office, risking arrest to make their point.
It ended peacefully but emotionally as about 65 members of a group called People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals left the building they'd been occupying and declared victory.
They were young, energetic people who were edgy and wanted their own brand of animal activism.
Animal rights activists took their protest inside the LA Convention Center. They picketed General Motors, the only car company, they say, that still uses animals in its crash tests.
General Motors is crash testing animals! General Motors is crash testing animals!
General Motors announced today it would no longer use animals in crash tests.
People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals is claiming a victory against Maybelline.
The world's largest cosmetics company, L'Oreal, has agreed to stop testing its cosmetics on animals.
Tonight, McDonald's bows to pressure from the Norfolk-based animal rights group PETA.
I just know on an anecdotal level, I think just the word PETA, you know? I mean, I think if you said it 20 years ago, people thought of bread. And now they think of something else.
You know, when you ask yourself, is PETA doing any good? One way to gauge, to rely on this thing that I always believed in, is that you can gauge a man by his enemies. If you were to go and ask every butcher, every guy who's killing animals all day long, mutilating animals all day long, if you were to ask every one of those, which animal group do you hate the most? Of all the animal groups in the world, every single butcher would say, I hate PETA.
PETA is an organization primarily funded by and consisting of well-intentioned individuals who care about animals, who naively think that if they give money to the organization PETA, to the leadership of PETA, they will actually end up helping animals. That is quite different than the leadership of PETA, which, in my opinion and in my experience, is less interested in helping animals than they are in completely eliminating any association that humans have with animals. And so basically, no medical research, no agriculture, no farms, no rodeos, no circuses, no captive breeding programs, nothing with animals. No wildlife management, no pet ownership, no horseback riding, They exist because Ingrid Newkirk is very good at marketing. They're very good at communicating to people, there's bad out there. Give us money and we'll stop it.
I just wanted to show you a couple minutes from our latest investigation. We just got out of there a few weeks ago. But it's an exotic animal dealer in Oklahoma who claims to rescue, typical story, claims to rescue big cats and primates and whatever, and is actually breeding them.
Oh, God.
He's taking the butt of a gun here and hitting these tigers.
Hope he doesn't have an accident with that. Do we have more than this? Because you know he's going to say, oh, that was an isolated incident.
We have more.
Oh, God.
We have more.
Thank goodness.
Yep.
I am deeply worried because we keep doing these investigations into exotics. And there's it's all worthwhile, it's all wonderful, and we need to close down every scumbag exotic facility there is. But the one thing that everybody needs to get involved in is empathy with animals they eat and don't think twice about, who are every bit in as much trouble, actually much, much more, than these bears and these tigers and so on. You know, Thanksgiving and the mass slaughter of turkeys is going to happen again, and nobody's going to think twice about it. It'll just be us on the streets again. We absolutely need an investigation inside a turkey slaughterhouse.
I know.
Or a turkey factory farm. People have never been asked to bridge that gap. They've been allowed to get away with bad behavior because the broad picture isn't painted for them that all animals feel, not just the cute ones with the big eyes, not the fluffy bears and the smiley dolphins, but all the animals.
Are we also going to have a typical campaign? I mean, are we going to produce materials and
If you get your man in, we'll have the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
There comes a time when we decide there is a laboratory or there is a slaughterhouse where we must get inside and use it as an example. Our investigator will go into one of these facilities if they can obtain employment and start documenting, which means getting the video camera evidence, getting evidence with still photography, making copious notes. The investigator will try to find places where they should be so that they can record conversations, opportunities to see things that the public doesn't know is going on. Investigations are so important because nobody believes. Nobody believes what you're saying. You can't just have words. You have to have pictures. You have to have video. You have to take them inside these places. No one is going to go behind the scenes. Who would want to go into these ugly places? It's much better for people to carry on with their habits if they never see the blood and the guts and the horror and the fear. We learned early on the image of the abuse. The image is the most powerful tool that we have.
Who in the building knows what you're doing?
Dan and Ben,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all. So.
Okay. I've been talking to Bruce about you for quite a while, and I know you're really valued down in the campaigns department. But we've got a big investigation planned. It's the ConAgra Slaughterhouse, and they provide Butterball with turkeys. When you do your application, they're going to ask you for references. Who do we have for that?
I can put my father's carpet company that I worked at some years ago.
Okay, so it's all the truth.
Right, all the truth.
Yeah, with the exception that you worked for PETA.
Yeah.
When you have the camera situated where you want it, you're going to want it to not move, no matter how much driving or walking or actual work you do. It might be very vigorous, physical work day, and we want that camera not to move.
In this case, we'll be looking for violations of the state cruelty to animals statute and also for violations of the Poultry Inspection Act.
You know that cliche, a picture's worth 1,000 words? A video of what happens to animals is worth a library of words. I mean, you can have a library of books about how horrible it is for animals in slaughterhouses and animals in laboratories, but nobody's gonna read those books.
When I was working in the lab, of course, I was working with rats and mice, so, I was working with thousands of animals, which very well in a slaughterhouse you will be too.
When I was working at Tyson, my job was a backup killer.
A backup killer?
Right. I was like the last line
defense as far as birds going into the skull tank alive. There was a rotary blade that would cut the chickens' throats, and whatever missed the blade, it was all on my shoulders to make sure that that animal was killed.
The notes have to be made contemporaneously every night, every single night.
When you come home,
just do it right away.
Well, it depends. Like, it depends on how good you are with your memory. My first thing was wanting to take a bath to get all the bacteria and everything off me. And coming home covered in blood and feces was like the worst thing for me to have to deal with.
An investigation to me is a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of commitment, a lot of effort, and a lot of hope. We've yet to have one that has resulted in nothing. They go into these hellholes and bring out the video, and what they show people has the potential to change the world. I lead a fairly simple lifestyle. I'm not really interested in a lot of junk material things, stuff. It doesn't fascinate me. I had a marriage, and it was very lovely. I was married to a lovely man. I just, honest to God, didn't have time for it. I've never wanted children. I was sterilized when I was 22. I read that there was a new procedure that was easy, and so I called up and said, can I be one of the first people to do this? I came to think that there's something wrong with wanting your own child, that there are so many homeless children in the world, so many orphans, that if you really want a child, why make a replica of yourself and your partner? I don't have animals. I travel all the time, and I don't miss not having animals because I believe that you should work to help them, not that you should accumulate them, possess them, and so on. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. I believe that the horrors in this world could not ever have been created by a loving God. I believe in kindness, I believe in personal responsibility, and I believe in being decent to people. This is a place where we had the back of a chicken truck thing came open, and chickens just came tumbling out as the truck went down the road. About 5 of us came out here and caught all the chickens we could up and brought them back to the office, and some of them went out to that sanctuary, the ones who were salvageable. Most of them weren't salvageable. I'm sorry to do this, but I have to turn around. There's a dove that's probably dead, but I have to have a look because I'd never trust that they are. Dead. So where were we? Hi, sweetheart. Is this you? Is this your life? Hello. I think I'm like a child who was raised by wolves, in that my father was away most of the time. My mother was an English mother, which means she didn't dote and fawn on me. I was an only child, so I had to make my own way a lot of the time. And my companion, my sibling, was my dog. I grew up to understand that dog's expression, that dog's feelings. And so just as you might grow up with a brother or sister, you come to understand them, and they don't have to say anything to you for you to know what they're feeling. I think this might be a lost cause, chum. Perhaps that's what happened with me, because it certainly is very painful to look at an animal's face or body posture and know that they have just been through something bad. And it's not imagination. I think it's because I learned that growing up for years with that dog. Is this your puppy? How long have you had this puppy?
2 months.
2 months? It's awful cold out here. Plastic barrel, you know, provides some protection from the rain, but it's just not good enough. So we're going to get one of the houses off the truck. My father had great anger that would well up from inside him. He had a fierce temper. And I work to not have it, but there are occasions when I really have almost done physical damage to people.
Like what?
The first incident that I remember is when I had just arrived in India. I was sitting at a table and I was drinking my soup. And I looked out, you could see the street from my dining room. And a man was beating, this bull came along pulling a cart. And he obviously was having trouble. And as I watched, the man started to really beat him. And then he lifted the bull's tail and he put the stick up into his rectum. And this bull screamed and then he collapsed. And the man raised his stick and started to, and I dropped my soup spoon, ran out into the street. And I was just filled with so much anger and panic to stop this from happening to this being. And I got there and I tore the stick away from him. I was only about 8.5 probably. And I made him kneel down. I was just filled with rage. And this rage that is my father's rage just came up straight inside me. And he knew that he's lucky I didn't kill him. You look like a sorry soul. Oh my God, he's so thin. Look how thin he is. His bones are standing out. Is this the owner?
Yeah.
Well, from here you can see his hip bone sticking out in the back, and you can see his ribs.
Yeah.
And his backbone under that hair. This is a sort of winter hair that comes in if they're out in the cold. It sticks up, it's just, you know, spindly. But under here, if you feel, that's his backbone. He doesn't have any muscle. He doesn't have any fat. He's not in good shape. He has nothing to really get him through.
So you're gonna need to change his food?
Well, I think more than that. Let's look at his gums. See, his gums are chalk white. That means he's anemic. What that means is he's probably got worms like whipworms, which are more serious than the regular stomach worms, roundworms.
Yeah, I just shot him up with worm medicine the other day.
What'd you give him?
It's like the yellow color.
Do you have a vet?
No, not a personal vet.
What are you feeding him?
I had like some PMI, then
You got any now?
Nah, I gave him a little bit earlier this morning.
But you're out of food now?
Yeah, so I was about to go get some now.
All right.
Go get another bag. I gotta go to the hog farm over in Windsor. That's where I get it from.
Because he is in bad shape. He's basically being starved. I mean, that's what's happening to him. Do you want us to take him in, put him in the vet? It won't be any cost to you.
I really appreciate it.
Okay, we have to sign him over for that. Let me get my clipboard. Hang on a second. It's okay. There you are. See, it's not so bad. He's just a thing. He's one more thing that they have, I think. Sort of a passing nice idea. You've got yourself a pet. But the reality of care is not understood. So what's the verdict?
Well, he's heartworm positive. He's severely anemic, as we knew, and he suggested a blood transfusion. He said his red blood cell count was 12% versus 35 to 50%, which is normal. So he's pretty bad off.
So we'll talk to Kashawn.
Yeah. Kashawn? Hi, my name is Daphne. I'm calling from PETA. Okay, he's got heartworm disease. Are you familiar with that? Mm-hmm. You are familiar with it? It's transmitted by mosquitoes, and usually what happens if it's untreated or you don't give the dog a preventive, the worms lodge themselves in the dog's heart, and that's why some of his breathing is labored, if you've noticed. And so that requires some pretty aggressive treatment. You know, I want to talk to you about putting the dog to sleep. Right, so you'd rather not have him back then? Okay, okay. But you understand his serious condition and that he will be put to sleep. Okay, okay, bye-bye.
I think he should go down right away. If you look at him, he's really looks miserable. His whole face looks miserable. So, will you?
I can see the pain in his eyes.
Yeah, will you?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
My first euthanasia experience was because I took some kittens who had been abandoned by my neighbor to the local shelter. And I didn't realize they were going to be put down. I was very naive. I thought they'd find wonderful homes for them. But I happened to go into the back to have a look at the other animals, and I found they had been put down. And I was pretty shocked because obviously I'd betrayed them. I'd taken them to this place and they had been killed. And it wasn't until much later that I realized that sometimes euthanasia is a gift to them. I had to study how to do it properly because we weren't taught to do it properly in the shelter where I started. There was a man who would just bring all the animals into a room, and then he would stab them basically in the vicinity of their hearts with a needle that had never been changed in a long time and had barbs on it and so on. And the animals would thrash about. They would know that they were going down, and they would be in the blood of other animals. It was like a slaughterhouse.
Right. Why did you take it upon yourself to do it then?
Because I didn't want them to experience that. And well, I just knew that if I came in early and made a clean place for them and brought them out as if they were going for a walk and did it kindly, they wouldn't know.
My Conagra Foods ID. When I get to work at 5:15, I clock in. We're each standing in front of our own separate coop. Pull a bird out by the legs, or most time grab both legs with one hand because it's harder for them to get away that way. And pull the bird out, let them hang down, grab a leg, and then put them in the shackles. And just it's that over and over and over and over. There are 4 of us, so you have that, and then you have until you're supposed to shackle another bird. By the end of the day, from 5:45 to say we work to 3, or 3:30, it's 50,000 birds is the average output of this plant every day that they run. It's a lot of animals, a whole lot of animals. So I saw a turkey get sexually abused before it died today. This morning the line stopped and a guy got my attention and said, "Hey, look at this," and stuck his finger in the turkey's vagina. And the birds are upside down, so he just did this for a good 30 seconds and would do it and look at it and be like, and it was, that's, gross. This definitely validates every notion I had in my mind about slaughterhouses and about animal treatment.
To begin with, most people won't even work in a slaughterhouse, all right? Most normal people will not stand there and slit the throats of animals all day long. If you're decent, if you're a normal human being, you won't even do that. So you've got to find someone who's willing to go in there and do that, even though they're totally opposed to it, and do it because they know they're doing it in the best interest of the animals to stop the slitting of the throats. The number of people that are willing to do that is very small, especially when you have to add on to the fact that you're scared to death you're going to have the tar beaten out of you if you get caught, if they find your camera, and that you're going to get arrested and prosecuted, and they're going to try to throw you in jail if you're doing this, and you're going to go broke paying for the lawyers, because the animal group, you can't count on them to pay your legal bills. So you're risking everything.
We've got a problem with the investigation, the turkey investigation.
This is our new boy, right?
Yeah, we've got nothing. We have
what do you
lovely
mean
log
we have
notes.
nothing?
We have great log notes, but
we have no video footage?
Video.
What does he say?
He says, you know, the batteries weren't charged this day.
I beg your pardon?
Monday. Yeah.
The boy either does the job or he gets out.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't have somebody in there who's just mucking about.
I know. Yeah.
He was told exactly what went into this job. It's not a picnic. It's not a walk in the park. He was told. Now, don't screw us over, because if he screws us over, he's screwing the birds over. We can't afford to just lollygag around with some young person who can't get their act together.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot depends on this. Maybe you've got to come down on him like a ton of bricks.
Today was the first day I wore the camera, but it didn't work. I had to take a couple of days off because my hands my right arm was asleep for like almost 24 hours straight. Been having camera difficulties, which is endlessly frustrating. Saw a guy rip a turkey's leg off today. I want to get that on tape, you know, and I don't. And I tell them about it, and they're like, why didn't you get it on tape? My arm and my wrist and my hand hurt. I feel like I kind of let people back in the office down. I let myself down. I miss home, I miss friends and my family, and I'm tired of killing tons of animals and watching people abuse the hell out of them.
I would do it myself, so I know that it's doable. It's not a superhuman task, it's just a damn difficult task. It's a nasty, dirty, filthy task, and that it is soul-wracking if you care. It takes a part of your heart and it breaks it. I've done investigations, and I know how hideous it is for you forever. Those things will always stay with you. So you have to have enormous sympathy for the investigator. Once in a blue moon, an investigator won't do their job. They will shirk. They will make excuses. And then I have no sympathy for them. You're wasting our time and our money and our effort. And worse than anything is that you're letting the animals down. Get out.
Founder of the largest animal rights organization in the world, my guest is a fighter and no stranger to controversy. Joining me now is co-founder and president of PETA, Ingrid Newkirk, and welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
People have criticized some of your methods of going about persuading, and I've been witness, actually, to seeing paint thrown on fur coats. And Oscar de la Renta, who said that he was a supporter of PETA until he got a pie in the face.
Anybody who has received a pie hasn't received it because we're not doing our homework. For example, I just told the CEO of Procter & Gamble, we won't lob a pie at him anymore. But it caused him to pick up the phone and call me personally. No other tactic, sadly, has ever caused him to do that.
And dropping a dead fish on the editor of Vogue's lunch at the Four Seasons, is that a way to get attention also?
Oh, yes, it got tons of attention. It was actually a raccoon. Your show is beautiful, but I'm not much of a judge of fashion, but I'm a judge of ethics. And you're beautiful. Look at what you've done.
I'm doing what I can, the little bit that I can.
Yeah, you saw the mulesing footage, didn't you?
Yes, and we're not going to use wool for next season. We definitely won't use wool from Australia, that's for sure.
Lovely man. These are some sayings just to fortify you during the working day. If there's ever anything we can do for you, but you've done everything for the animals.
Yeah, we're gonna work with them on the next show.
All right, excellent. Lovely. Thank you. We won't keep you.
Congrats. Terrific show again. See you later.
Thanks a million.
Bye. See you later. Thanks. Bye.
How was Paris?
Wonderful, wonderful. We've got so many terrific opportunities here. Here's an option in the Yves Saint Laurent store. Now, these have windows that you can really easily get into. They have backdrops here, but you could easily move them away and take over the window.
It's practically tailor-made for a protest.
Now this is a great target, but they have said they'll meet with us, but they've pushed the meeting back twice. It's Prada.
Oh, it's Prada.
Store in Paris.
Mr. and Mrs. Prada. We know where their workshop is.
Yeah, the thing is that they have been back in touch, have agreed to meet. Even though they've changed the date, we have to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, wonderful.
Even though their store does have a lot of fur this season.
Tons of fur.
I can tell you like that one.
Well, it's kind of, you know, it's Jean-Paul Gaultier's window. He has the ugliest store. He told us back in the 90s that he would only use fake fur, and then when the furriers pushed furs back and all that, he jumped on the bandwagon. He uses more fur than just about anybody. Now, he doesn't really even have window cases to worry about. He's just got this ugly store.
Basically, just step right into it.
Step in it, and there it is. This looks very good.
Yeah, I think it's the best bet because he's refused any meetings. He's just
a real fur pimp.
Yeah.
Jean-Paul Gaultier is celebrating his 30th year of design, and unfortunately, he's getting worse and worse. He's getting crueler. I think he's like a little boy who wants to show his mummy he can be extra cruel. I really do. So I believe we have to do something to up the stakes a bit. He's very fond of his boutique off the Champs-Élysées. He has 2 windows, and we want to take over those windows. What I'm worried about is the possibility that they've got some security rent-a-goon person.
They do. I was there when it was open before, and there's a guy who stands at the door, and the door's not locked. But it could be locked.
It could be easily locked. They'd be idiots if they didn't have a system to just lock it down quickly. And I think that makes it imperative that we're inside without the press and that we're inside looking normal.
Well, the 4 of us will be arriving completely separately than Eric and Michael and the whole media mob.
I'm not sure that's what I want to do. I would like to go in first because there is an obscene skirt. And I thought maybe, because they probably have an alarm at the counter, if I could get the people to come out from the counter and talk about the skirt as if we're interested, then that would give a chance for everybody else to come in. We'll look at the window, and we'll see something, and then we'll think of going in. So we'll just go in, and hopefully we'll be let in. Bonjour.
But you guys aren't following as closely.
It's not too far behind, 30 seconds tops.
You shouldn't be here now. Oh, yes. We need a little time inside. We need this sales attendant to come out and talk to us. We need everybody to think about the customers in the store. But it's not going to be such a kerfuffle that they're going to want to not let other people in, right? It's just going to be asking. Okay, cool. I'm just going to ask them about this hideous skirt. So please, you've got to give me at least 3 or 4 minutes.
If word is like that that there is going to be a protest that's meeting in the vicinity, and they've got.
And you start asking about fur coats. This is.
That's okay.
It's not, because they could lock the doors and the whole thing could be aborted.
No, it won't be like that.
I don't know if I'd.
Yeah, the thing is also, if you're engaging them about things that they don't want to hear about, and they don't want to hear about how that fur is made,
I'm not talking to them, Dan, about how the fur is made. Grow up. I'm going to be questioning them about the skirt. I would like to know some things about the skirt. That's normal.
What kind of things, though? It does worry me.
Don't worry. It'll be all right, Michael. Boys, you know, before you were born, I was doing animal rights protests. to change our style because we're desperate to catch people's attention. I regret it. But if you switch on the nightly news, everything is reduced to the tiny soundbite. Everybody is obsessed with sex. They're obsessed with violence. I think the choice, which is very hard for us, is no attention or some attention. I think it's an act of desperation that we must use, or there will be silence and nobody will know there is an animal rights movement.
Back in the early 1990s, PETA had tried to meet with Calvin Klein, at the time he was a huge designer then, and he refused. And so eventually several PETA members actually took over his office, much like today's protest, except it was in his office. The following week, he called our president and said, okay, I heard your message, let's meet. And they set up a meeting, and that same season, he banned fur from his collections.
So that kind of action, like, really
it has a
an
history
impact.
of working. Yeah, it has an impact, and we hope that Jean-Paul Gaultier makes the same decision.
Gaultier, bullshit! Gaultier!
Ingrid just has this philosophy of this mantra. She feels that there's no such thing as bad press. She'll say that all the time. She'll say she's a media whore.
No les faltaba el típico pañuelo rojo anudado al cuello característico de
Today,
esta
I think the mission has become diffuse and really watered down by what I call the stupid human tricks. And that's where stupid things are done just for PR sake. It's those stupid human tricks that have been backfiring and have been hurting the credibility of the organization.
Spectators got more than an eyeful during today's parade when some protesters decided to parade in their birthday suits.
PETA and McDonald's are facing off tonight over what PETA is calling the unhappy meal.
This is just not the way to get your point across. You don't attack children. My question was, do I have the right to hit them if they frighten my children?
The 7-foot carrot showed up at C.P. Squires Elementary School immediately surrounded by kids. A leaflet handed out by the carrot couple read, "Hamburgers are really cows who have been separated from their families and killed."
You guys like animals? Yeah. Do you want to eat them?
Rats have rights. Survive on veggies.
They attacked the TV show Survivor for allowing people to eat rats. They encouraged college kids to drink beer instead of milk. And now they have mocked New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani's battle with prostate cancer. These billboards in Wisconsin satirizing the Got Milk ads with the caption, "Got prostate cancer."
I'm considering suing them because I think what they're doing is outrageous. They're trying to exploit my illness. I think it would be outrageous if they tried to exploit anybody else's.
You know, everything that has turned you off about PETA has come directly from Ingrid, simply because she knows that by its shock value and attention. The idea is that it brings attention to the issue. The problem is it's so outrageous that it just brings attention to the fact that it's outrageous.
The intention is to get whatever attention they can by whatever means. Now, that makes you good at fundraising, perhaps, or good at being a media slut. Is it to be respected? Is that how you respect animals? Is that how you get a society to respect animals? I don't think it does a thing for animals.
There are many times when the opposition hoists up PETA as the norm of animal welfare and says, you know, these are the animal welfare people, these are the things that they do, and that can't help.
What surfaced all of a sudden in 2003, I believe, is a campaign by PETA comparing the slaughter of animals to the slaughter of the Jews. This was so hurtful. This was not only hurtful to survivors, but it was hurtful to just decent people. It trivialized what the Holocaust was all about. The Holocaust was the slaughter of the Jewish people. It was genocide. It was a plan. It was a strategy to destroy and eliminate the Jewish people from the face of the earth. And to compare this to very, very strong feelings about cruelty against animals, which is fine. But is this the only way that one can express this advocacy?
Anybody who is stuck in traditional thought believes themselves separate, apart, superior to all the other species on the face of the earth. And so I knew there was a barrier there. Unfortunately, sometimes the only way you get discussion on the table is to do something jarring. But I still hold that the campaign is absolutely true, that we must get over ourselves and not live in the past, that we must open our eyes to the present.
So the first thing on the order of agenda is to talk about the panels, which I've copied for all of you.
And is this what we're calling it? What do we call
calling
it?
it? The Animal Liberation Display.
Well, that's our name
That's our
internally
name
for it.
Are these panels definite or they can change? They can change. Clubbing. What kind of photo are we looking for on the clubbing?
Well, there's one image that's actually not here of a slave man's leg in a chain and an elephant's foot in a chain.
That would be great.
That would be very good.
Are we staying away from Holocaust on this?
No, not necessarily.
There
If we've
isn't
got a
any
super duper one.
Holocaust in here.
How about the internment of Japanese Americans? I mean, that's 1940s.
Yeah, that's a good one.
If we want to make the images bigger on some of these, we're going to have to cut text, and I don't know if anybody's really willing to.
But the quotes are extremely
Yeah.
important. Look at this one about the captain gave the order. 54 Africans were chained together, then thrown overboard. Since it was permissible to kill animals for the safety of the ship, they decided, it was permissible to kill slaves for the same reason. People forget. History is about 5 minutes ago last Tuesday. This is going to be a revelation to most people.
They have trivialized animal rights. They've exploited racism and women in campaigns, using people as props to project animal rights. And you can't do that. You can't sensationalize an issue involving a lot of pain, a racist issue, for example, and expect to advance an ethical cause in doing so. The means don't justify the ends.
Well, we've all crossed the line who are on the front lines. If you don't cross the line sometimes, how do you know where it is? So it's not the worst sin in the world to cross the line. To me, a much worse sin is to never even approach the line.
The nation's capital woke up this morning to front-page stories in the Washington Post and New York Times that the FBI has been conducting surveillance of mainstream protest groups concerned about animal rights and the environment. The FBI says it is merely trying to find information about violent extremists who have caused property damage. But the story has ignited a huge debate about how far our government should go.
Today, FBI documents first given to the New York Times and Washington Post and now on the American Civil Liberties Union website show PETA is under FBI investigation. The documents offer no proof the group is a subversive threat or has been involved in any illegal activities, but the files show federal agents have been tracking PETA for years.
Agents wrote, PETA is suspected of providing material support and resources to known domestic terrorist organizations, such as the Animal Liberation Front.
I think certainly the FBI should know the difference between a terrorist and somebody handing out a vegetarian starter kit or somebody protesting naked in a cage on a sidewalk. I think that's just a ruse, and it needs to stop. They are targeting people because of the content of their speech and their conduct in opposing these billion-dollar industries that make profits off of exploiting animals. We're a threat to anybody and everybody that exploits animals.
You really believe that the FBI draws a complete distinction between PETA as an organization and an entirely separate organization of ALF? It seems like they think there's a common thread that not only do you support them, but there's belief that you're a front for some of these more radical organizations.
Of course, it's absurd. And there's no connection. There's no there. Like I said, you know, we've gone through this for the better part of 2 decades. PETA's gone through 2 IRS audits. The most recent one just concluded in May of 2005, and we've been given a clean bill of health. PETA's an entirely lawful organization, and again, it's just time for this kind of thing to stop. There is no connection, period.
Anyone who says they're with the ALF or working for the ALF, they're either stupid or they're lying, because everything the ALF does, by definition, is illegal.
The ALF has launched a number of activities, burning houses down, trashing labs, stealing animals, destroying instruments. I did get a phone call in 2 o'clock in the morning stating that they knew that I walked to work every day and that they knew that I left at a certain time and that I took the same route every day. It was pretty upsetting for the family to have me threatened that way.
The ALF broke into the University of Pennsylvania, and within hours, the videotape was in the hands of PETA. So there's some close networking there, evidently. Ingrid Newkirk was implicated in various ALF activities. She was never convicted, but she was a person of interest. Ingrid has gone on record saying she does not condemn the actions of the ALF, and if she had more guts, she would light a match herself. If they aren't involved in the activities, they sure are very vocal cheerleaders.
I really applaud the Animal Liberation Front every time it has gone into a laboratory and brought animals out. I would to this day cheer if anybody destroyed some place in which animals were being hurt and tormented.
Well, what the FBI always said was PETA by day, ALF by night. Where there's smoke, there's fire. But you'd be a fool to go around admitting you've done something illegal.
I've probably known people in the ALF. If I know people in the ALF, I'd never say. The last thing I'd want is for them to be caught. More power to them. But that doesn't mean that PETA does what the ALF does. In fact, PETA doesn't. PETA has chosen a much different way to go. But far be it for me to criticize anything they're doing. I have more than my work cut out for me to criticize what people are doing to animals, which is far greater a crime than any crime that the ALF may commit.
We can never win these battles by harassing an individual or threatening harm. Never. That retards our progress. It's tactically idiotic because it hands a strategic opportunity to our opponents. We're demanding ethical consistency in the way that people live their lives, and then if we're not pursuing that in our own tactics, how does that get reconciled? Once you move into the domain of intimidation or illegal conduct beyond civil disobedience, you're going into a dangerous pile of quicksand. But PETA says it doesn't do that, and
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. It's just that they don't condemn.
They don't
condemn that.
Yeah, and they should.
Well, it might have started with only a typewriter and a phone, but 25 years later, it is known as one of the most controversial animal rights groups on the planet. From going head-to-head with some of the biggest celebrities to staging contentious demonstrations, one thing is clear, PETA's never backed down in its 25 years.
Can I get a few words for a vegan radio show that I do? Well, we're here at the PETA, Gala 25.
Yes, we are.
You're coming right off the red carpet here. And why do you support PETA?
Because I love animals.
You're in the middle.
Am I?
Wow. Which camera are you?
A thorn among the roses. Bruce is very, very excited. Your KFC video is just the #1 watched video.
They just met on the other side over there.
Oh, good. Yeah. Is it all okay?
Pardon me?
Is it all
We're all
okay?
set. We're starting.
Okay, goody.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, everyone, here we go.
When I was asked to co-host this evening, I said yes under one condition, that I be allowed to say a few words about a remarkable woman I've come to know and admire. Because let's face it, without Ingrid, none of us would be here this evening. To her staff of 300, Ingrid is an inspiration. To the animals, she is their voice, their liberator, their hope. Ingrid, for us, and on behalf of all animals who have been saved, and all the animals who, thanks to PETA, will never know an abusive hand, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Ingrid Newkirk.
was most unexpected, and as I will say, it is undeserved because I could do nothing without all of you, and that's the God's honest truth. For animals in laboratories and slaughterhouses, every day is a tragedy. They have nothing but their skins and their lives, and yet there are people who want to take even those from them. PETA's job is to be their fearless defender. And because so many of you care, we can be that. But it's still a pittance. One day we will all have to look back on our lives and take account of what we've done. I ask you to join me in taking a vow tonight that you will join us at PETA in doing more than you have ever done before, just to bring animals a little joy and to move heaven and earth to stop their suffering. Thank you so much. Good night.
I like this, Jay, following this truck. Those animals are just crammed so tightly in those cages. Look at them panting. God, this is... Oh. And this is in June when it was cooler.
What are we seeing now?
And these workers...
Just the floor covered with their feathers and...
This shackling process. I mean, these guys grab the birds from
Are there
any
close-up
part of their
shots?
body.
Because we really can't see what he's doing there clearly.
Watched. Yeah. This is a contest to see who can throw these birds, slam them into these things. Both investigators saw innumerable broken legs in the crate.
He's throwing them. Look, he's throwing them. He's not even hooking them. He's just throwing them.
That was a turkey hitting that cement wall. Yeah, look at this. He's sitting on that turkey. The turkey that the guy threw down.
Wow.
That turkey is still alive.
Yeah, you can see him.
See him kicking?
So he's using the turkey as a
Sorry,
stool.
Jay, since he splashed it.
Yeah. This is gratuitous.
Oh, you Mary Beth.
Yeah, so that's it, you guys, for the... And Jay just gave me some new video this morning.
I know Chris's log notes would detail finding birds, you know, as soon as they came off the trucks, whose legs were broken so severely that, you know, just barely hanging by a thread of skin. You know, the bone was totally severed in half.
And we've got footage of that. We've got stills as well.
I mean, you've got his witness statement and the other witness statements. His log notes must
Right, the log notes detail it very clearly, but I think Lori's going to have him sign an affidavit.
Now, how much weight in court will his sworn statement hold versus what we have on videotape?
It doesn't really matter because we will move heaven and earth to put every complaint together that we possibly can just hold on to by a straw.
I was on my lunch break at work, and I noticed we had a handful of turkeys. We had a handful of turkeys in the parking lot. And normally during the day, we have to, our job as live hangers is to go out into the parking lot and pick up the errant turkeys. But I noticed that one Carmen had gone either under the fence or past security guard and into the street. I called Ingrid. I told her that I had found the bird, and she said that she was interested in getting Carmen to a sanctuary.
All right, right, sweetie?
Essentially, she was a runaway. So she
Came off the truck.
came off the truck and left the facility.
Finders keepers.
Yeah.
We just put some straw down. Of course, she's probably not used to straw.
Had the blanket and wood chips, really.
There you are. There you are. Look. Don't go that way. Keep this way, then. Look. They cut her toes off. Yeah. Look at his little tiny ears. You can come out. We'll get you some water. That's the truth. All right, we're going to leave you in peace. You can rest. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for coming to our news conference. My name is Ingrid Newkirk. I'm with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I'd like to say that Arkansas law is very clear that anyone who subjects an animal to cruel mistreatment or neglect is guilty of cruelty to animals. And the law defines cruelty as every act, omission, or neglect whereby unjustifiable physical pain, suffering, or death is caused or permitted. I'm going to show you a very brief clip of video footage from the plant narrated by one of the investigators who worked there.
At this plant, about 50,000 birds were shackled and slaughtered every day.
I never like to look in the crystal ball because what should happen is never necessarily what does happen. I think that the prosecutor will feel some pressure to prosecute, but probably more pressure from financial interests as big as ConAgra and Smithfield not to prosecute. And the feds may think, well, they really, under this administration, they certainly are being asked to back off, not push for the enforcement of any laws, including health laws.
Has Butterball responded?
Butterball has responded. They've said, in the same way they said a year ago, that if there is any abuse, they will fire the employees responsible. I wouldn't hold your breath till you turn blue.
Free DVD. At the very least, don't support Butter.
If they just do one thing, if they just try one meal that didn't have animals in it, if everybody would do that, or just 5% of people would do that, it would make this enormous difference. It's just that the enormity of the human population and the amazing amount of greed, selfishness, inconsideration, just thoughtlessness. We, especially in America, we live in this protected microcosm of happiness and consumerism and going to the gym and reading magazines and watching TV and stuffing our faces. And we don't see, we don't experience, we don't feel what's going on for the majority of living beings of any species in the world. You know, most people go to bed at night hungry. You know, most animals in the world are going to be thrown out because nobody wants them anymore. Overall, it's not a nice place.
How old were you when you got the tattoo?
19. I actually tried to auction this part of my arm. When I am really dead, this will come off and it will be tanned, and it's going to be skin for a lizard skin wallet, because it is a lizard skin, and when I'm dead I can sell it.
So you have someone in charge of that for you?
I do. I have my whole body taken care of when I'm dead. Little bits are going in different places. Now I think your body is a political instrument, and you should use it if you want to. Use your voice, use whatever you've got for a social cause.
Okay, Ingrid, there's reports that you've made out a last will and testament whereby you're going to give your flesh for barbecue. Now, what is this all about?
Well, I think when I die, animal cruelty isn't going to have stopped, and I don't want to stop campaigning against it. So I decided maybe I'll put my body to use. So I've donated some to PETA to barbecue when I'm gone. And if people smell that flesh cooking and they think, yum, it might cause them to come up short if they think, oh, Lord, it could be her.
She wants to be an historic figure when she makes statements that her body should be roasted after she dies or some such thing. I mean, the fake blood. What's the message there? I think it has a hollow ring to it, and it gets attention for an organization, but it hasn't helped an idea evolve.
PETA's emergence and Ingrid's leadership have had a huge impact on the way animals are viewed in society. But I'm afraid in too many cases, PETA has allowed the opposition to marginalize the organization. How PETA is viewed historically, it's too early to say. I mean, history is being made every day.
In other news tonight, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, also known as PETA, released video and a report of a 3-month investigation at a butterball facility in Ozark. The group says turkeys were severely abused.
Our main goal is to stop suffering, as much suffering as we possibly can. There will probably not be a day when the whole world respects all animal life. But if you think something is going to fail and you don't do it, then you have failed. Hello. Hi, guys. All you can do is try, and one day you might get a big bang, and other times you might get a small bang. Even a failure, to me, is still doing something. Oh, this is her lucky day. But I believe you always achieve by trying.
All right. Are you guys ready to watch this? These animals have been dosed for almost a year now, twice a day. And they have learned to clench their jaws, and these people will do anything to get them open.
PETA's who I think even the man in the street now realizes leads the fight for animal rights. I think before PETA, I just don't know if that was even on people's minds. And that's the first step. You know, I think it's at a place now where for most people it's on their minds and they still don't care. But at least they have to start to confront it. And that alone is a huge victory.
Directions for the disposition of the remains of Ingrid Newkirk. A, that the meat of my body, or a portion thereof, be used for a human barbecue, to remind the world that the meat of a corpse is all flesh, regardless of whether it comes from a human being or another animal. B, that my skin be removed and made into leather products, to remind the world that human skin and the skin of other animals is the same. C, that in remembrance of the elephant foot umbrella stands and tiger rugs I saw as a child, my feet be removed, and umbrella stands or other ornamentation be made from them. D, that one of my eyes be removed, mounted, and delivered to the Administrator of the United States Environmental Protection Agency as a reminder that PETA will continue to be watching the agency. E, that anything else be done with my body that PETA believes will serve to draw attention to and so abate the plight of exploited animals.